Hello again, everybody, and welcome back again to another episode of VIBELAND Sports. I am filling in for the host tonight, Todd Miller, but it is me, Kelby Peterson, giving it the host and try tonight. Helped out tonight by Casady Fletcher and Josh Beal. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Josh, how about you, man?
Pretty good. Can't complain. I mean, outside of that rain a little bit, doing pretty good myself.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I'll take a little bit of rain. In my world of business, when it's raining outside, you get to catch up a little bit on the office work, and so I need to do that for sure. And we're missing Todd again this week, but he's got a better excuse this week. He's actually out sick, so we're going to try to keep him away and keep him quarantined and keep him out of VIBELAND HQ. So
that's right.
Continue on with this production. So we've got a few topics to go over tonight. Football. That's going to be a big conversation point tonight, and then we're going to probably wrap up a little Thunder basketball. Our man Josh has got some good thoughts on the Clippers-Thunder game that we're going to get into a little bit later. But first off, guys, of course, the big news is the college football poll came out. LSU's ranked number 1, Ohio State number 2, Clemson number 3, Georgia number 4. So to round out your top 10 here, we've got Alabama coming in at 5, Oregon at 6, Utah at 7, Penn State at 8, the local Sooners, OU at 9, and Minnesota at 10. Guys, I can't complain very much about this list right now as it is. There's still time for changes to happen. A lot of these teams still have to play each other even. So, it's probably not where, as OU fans, where you guys want to be sitting at, but I really can't complain with LSU at number 1. They're, no question, the number 1 team to me. 4 wins against ranked opponents this year. That tops the list for this top 10. Can't, again, complain at Ohio State at number 2. They're winning not just, calmly and completely, but they are dominating and blowing teams out. I think they have the best player in college football. They're D Chase Young back there, so I can't argue with them. Clemson, I hate to say, they're right there at number 3. I can't argue with that. I hate their schedule this year. It's been
awful.
Just cupcake after cupcake. Their biggest win this year, their one ranked win against a top 25 team was Texas A&M when A&M was ranked number 12 early in the season and the way too early ranking. So in my opinion, that's not even a top 25 win that they got. And then again, Georgia at number 4, can't complain about that either. So guys, kind of tell me what your thoughts are on the rankings, OU's position. Cassidy, I'll throw it to you first.
I can't really complain too much about the rankings 1 through 4. Especially, I was a little surprised that the Sooners didn't jump and that Penn State didn't jump. I thought both of those schools would have a chance to move up the rankings this week, and it just did not happen. So it's a tough, I think, look for Oklahoma in terms of their path to making the top 4 right now. Thankfully, some of these teams have to play each other and have to play each other very soon. Ohio State and Penn State coming up this weekend. And then, Georgia's going to have to play likely LSU. I don't think LSU's going to stumble here at the end. And so that's going to be in the SEC championship game. So, look, there are multiple opportunities for teams to move up and slide down, but it's that Oregon, Utah, Penn State area right through there that I think OU's going to need to have Oregon and maybe Utah both lose another game on their way in.
And what do you guys think it says about the Big 12, too? I think there's a little bit of disrespect and shade even being thrown towards the Big 12.
Big time.
That Baylor, an undefeated team, they lose to OU, and OU barely moves up. Baylor only drops 1 spot. So what do you think the committee's saying? Are they rewarding wins? Are they, is it who lost worst or who lost more recently? Because in my opinion, it's who lost more recently. Because in my opinion, OU's loss to Kansas State isn't as bad as some other losses that we've seen out of these top 4 teams. I think Georgia, their loss earlier in this season, because it was so early, it's kind of forgotten about. And they say they watch every game and everything matters, but I don't know how much truth there is to that. I think it's what have you done for me lately?
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely think that's how it goes way too often, and People forget some of these teams have really bad losses that just get swept under the rug because it's a recency factor. And whenever the college football rankings really start, then everyone starts paying more attention. And I know the people on the committee at that point are then even more in tune with college football than they would be on a normal week.
So, Josh, what do you think about OU's chances of maybe sneaking into the playoff, or how do you feel about where they're at right now, ranking wise and as a team?
Well, I kind of allude to what you guys were saying before. OU definitely should have moved up just a few more spots as opposed to what they're currently ranked on. I mean, the Baylor game, that was OU's biggest comeback of school history.
Yeah,
so it's incredible that they didn't really take that into account. But it's nice to see teams like Penn State, that have been working all, season towards, making a playoff push. But for OU, I would have expected more.
Yeah, more of a jump, absolutely, after being an undefeated team like that and in such a fashion. Let's talk about that a little bit, guys. What a game that was. I think I asked the question on Twitter. I think that your answer probably depends on your perspective. What was it? Was it more of a epic collapse by Baylor or an epic comeback by OU? I mean, I'll let you guys go first on this because our perspectives are definitely different from this end of the mic to that end over there. So go ahead.
I think that OU came out in that second half and really they had a completely different mentality. I think they went out and took it from Baylor, at least at first. I mean, when they came out and just were swinging haymakers in that third quarter, now maybe that scared Baylor a little bit, put them in a position they didn't like, and they didn't perform up to the level. But I think it was all started because OU was just looking like a juggernaut out there in that second half.
I think, in my opinion, guys, I want to talk more about what an epic screw job, what an epic choke job it was by Baylor. Their confidence after that first half was sky high. I almost want to borderline and say it was cockiness, the way they walked out on the field in that third quarter. They, in that halftime locker room, they were celebrating like they won. I promise you the coaches, they were saying, hey, let's finish this off. But their feet were kicked up. They were hanging out because Matt Rule decided in that second half that his opponent wasn't a better head coach and a better football team in Lincoln Riley and OU. His opponent was the clock in the second half, and he tried to beat the clock, and that screwed him in the end. Because honestly, OU could have won the game. I mean, let's just pretend that Jalen Hurts doesn't fumble the ball on the inch line. They could have won it by 2 scores. True. Let alone the one. And if you go back and look at multiple opportunities in the games, the way the ball fell, Jalen making some better decisions, OU wins by 21. More than that, OU was the better football team walking into that building, and they were walking out. But in that first half, Baylor got on them. And in the second half, Baylor took advantage of nothing. I believe they ran less than 20 plays in the second half. I mean, OU did that in 3 drives.
Yeah.
They completely dominated the second half. You got to give credit to Jalen Hurts, though, too. Like I said earlier, fumbling on the inch line in a game like that and then leading your team out there to the game-winning field goal. I mean, what a response. What a leader he was. What an excellent win for the OU program, and I think that propels them. But again, guys, that defense, did it respond in the second half, or did Baylor shut down?
I mean, I think the defense did what they had to do. I mean, they kind of realized that, their season was on the line.
Absolutely.
Playoff hopes in the picture here, so they kind of had to rally together. But I thought it was interesting that OU took Baylor 24, OU was 24 points to Baylor 0 points in the second half with 368 total yards. So.
That was crazy. And again, speaking about that defense, like Josh just said, I mean, how about it, guys, to end the game? Ended on that turnover. That streak is finally over. They finally got that, out of grasp turnover, it seems, and on a great play. I mean, I thought the Baylor quarterback made a bad read, threw a bad ball, but OU was there to jump the route and make the smart play, so they did the right thing there. And again, you got to give credit to OU, but again, I got to speak to Baylor's cockiness. And I was talking about before the game what a good coach Matt Rule is. I mean, and he is. That's a great accomplishment there at that program, but that loss is going to sting them for this season for sure, and possibly longer. You know, all things considered, it's probably looking like a rematch of Baylor and OU in the Big 12 championship. And again, I think the moment will probably be too big for Matt Rule, and I think OU goes in there and dominates him again if given another opportunity.
Yeah, if the OU that played that second half shows up for a full game against Baylor, it could get pretty messy. Especially, look, OU's been there. They've played in multiple championship games now, and that staff has as well, and they know how to prepare. They know how to get their guys prepared for it, whereas Baylor is going to be a pretty new experience for, I mean, everyone on that staff and team. I mean, the last time that they were hyper relevant, it's been a few years back, and they've had a lot of turnover since then.
Absolutely. So that pretty much wraps it up and does everything for OU. So I want to touch on OSU a little bit just to, appease both fan bases. Played Kansas, not much of a topic to talk about. As a fan, you don't get too excited. You don't get too high. I mean, you can certainly get too low on a game like that, but I actually got to go to the game. It was a first home game of the year for me, so it was way later in the season than I normally get to my first home game. I got to go to the Tulsa game, was there for homecoming, but didn't end up getting tickets to the game. So it was a great experience, great to see the Pokes in person. I loved the uniforms that they did. Did you guys catch that? They got to honor the military. Nike had reached out to them as one of the schools to get a uniform to honor the armed forces, so that was pretty cool, seeing them with their patches and the cowboy battalion on the back of the uniforms. That was cool to see. Liked what I saw out of Spencer Sanders. Again, not a game where they let him throw the ball a lot. It was a good balance. Chuba has another great game, and it was funny being in the stands. We're dominating the game. We're all fans kind of looking at each other, waiting for Chuba to go break off his 60, break off his 50-yard run, and it never really came, but he still finished with, I believe, like 130, so had a good game. Spencer had some good plays. He did get hurt late in the game, hurt his wrist, but all reports are that he's probably okay to play again. The backup, Drew Brown, stepped up. I think his second or third pass through just a beautiful dime to Dylan Stoner for a 45-yard touchdown. Defense almost gave up. They gave up a few garbage points at the end there, but almost had them for a shutout. I liked the way they played. There was Kansas had several tip balls, and OSU got underneath just about every single one of them. So it was good to see turnover chances created, and the fact that the defense took advantage of them and got underneath the ball and didn't let too many slip through their fingertips. That's something you like to see and like to see them take advantage of. Did you guys get to catch any of the OSU game? And
I heard a little bit of it on the radio. I was traveling during the game, but it sounded like the Cowboys were just doing whatever they wanted to.
Absolutely.
On both sides of the ball, and that's what you want to see against an opponent like Kansas. You need to go out there and just dominate and be in full control of that game from the first snap. And look, I think that is exactly what you need to continue to propel you forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I thought I'd see more from the Les Miles. But again, it's just
that surprised me.
You got to play the hand you're dealt, and it's just the players aren't there. The talent level isn't the same in Stillwater as it is in Lawrence, Kansas. And that's just a fact, and he's got to do what he's got. I mean, he's got Puka Williams. Puka Williams, I kind of forgot that he played for Kansas until the fans I was sitting around were cheering for him, because I ended up sitting really close to some in the visitor section. Kansas, they did not travel well. I was definitely sitting next to some family members for sure, but I mean, it's hard to travel for Kansas Jayhawk football, but no, Kansas Jayhawk basketball. Those are some fans. You'll see them in any building in the United States. So, but yeah, it's Kansas. This is what it is. So, all right, I guess guys, that probably wraps it up for football. Unless Josh, you have something?
No, that's pretty much wraps it up. Yeah,
we're going to say something. Sorry. All right, so yeah, I think that pretty much does it for college football. I think like we all kind of agreed with the rankings here so far, and they're not set in stone. There's going to be some changing. I think OU still has an opportunity to sneak in this playoff. Will they do it is one thing, so we'll see how that plays out, and we'll definitely keep you guys posted throughout the season as our thoughts go on as the season goes on. I kind of want to touch a little bit on the NFL. Not a lot going on this weekend, not a lot of storylines. I really like the way the Cowboys handled themselves against the Lions. Had several opportunities to blow that game and kind of let it get away from them, and they just kept kind of putting their foot down on the gas and finishing and doing what they needed to do.
And for once, they stuck with Dak.
Mm-hmm.
Dak was rolling. He has been rolling. And they didn't try to just feed Zeke for no reason and give it away like they did against Minnesota.
Yeah, they've learned from their mistakes the week previous, and you'd like to see that continue now. How long are those lessons learned? Because these are the Jason Garrett Dallas Cowboys. So it's one week it's a great lesson. The next week we're back to our old ways. So we'll see. And a great test coming up this week, guys, for the Patriots. Huge. I hope the Cowboys come out there and make a great impression out there. I think they have a chance to win talent-wise, and that win would go a long way towards their confidence. But I'm also afraid that win would go a long way towards Jerry keeping Jason Garrett around. Jason Garrett beats Bill Belichick and the Patriots. I think that sticks in Jerry's mind a long time and longer than it should.
I would hope that.
I hope not.
Right. Maybe that gets him to the end of the season.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe it lets him survive the season. And guys, people are talking about it. I'm not ready to go there yet. I mean, again, back-to-back excellent performances from Dak. Is he in the MVP conversation?
Oh, man. Maybe as an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
As like the number 4 or 5 guy, that if you're going to include that many in the discussion, then yes, he's leading the NFL in passing yards right now. I think for that alone, that's going to get you somewhere in the discussion.
And another 400-yard game this weekend. So he's just adding to it. And it's, as a fan, I'm watching it, it feels like a quiet 400. I mean, he's slinging the ball all around, and you look up in the third quarter, and Michael Gallup and Randall Cobb both have 100 yards receiving. You're like, okay, well, I mean, these numbers are going somewhere. We're scoring a lot of points. So, yeah, it's just, like I said, I looked up, I was like, oh, 442 yards. Wow, Dak, okay. I didn't realize it was like that. But, yeah, I mean, you can talk about him in the MVP conversation. He's definitely, in my opinion, it's Lamar Jackson's award to lose. And again, props to him. We've talked about him on the show before. So I think he's the leader in the clubhouse for that for sure. But just like I'm trying to talk Chuba into the Heisman conversation, which, by the way, he is now. If you've checked Twitter, Chuba's a votable option. So it looks like College Football listens to VIBELAND Sports and heard my argument, and I was able to plead my case, and it worked. I'm not going to do the same here for Dak. I mean, because in the NFL, it's not an invite type of thing like the Heisman is. No. So it'd be cool to have Dak talked about. Absolutely. He's playing like it. He deserves to be in the conversation. And I think he's said it before. He's making himself that paycheck that Jerry's going to have to write. Yeah. It's just getting higher and higher. And Dak's what seemed to be ridiculous demands before the season aren't seeming so ridiculous anymore.
He's had more 400-yard passing games this year than I think the last 3 years combined.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy. You start looking at what he's been able to do, and for once, I think in this new offensive system, it is Dak go win this game for us, where it has been Zeke go win this game and Dak just manage and be a game manager type quarterback. Now they're putting more of that responsibility on Dak's shoulders, and I think he's showing that he can step up when it's asked of him and really lead this team in a way that I didn't think that he could, at least at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely. And that pretty much wraps it up with the football talk here tonight, guys. We're going to take a quick break and be right back for our second topic, touch on a little Thunder basketball. So we'll be right back right after this. And welcome back to our second segment here on VIBELAND Sports, presentation of VIBELAND Media. We are going to be touching on the Thunder a little bit, guys. I know we've had an interesting week, another close game. That elusive road win still just slips away out of the Thunder's fingertips. 0-6 on the road, but man, we're so close in these games, guys. There's really been one game all season long where we had no shot, and that was the Pacers game. So for this team to be able to say that at this point, again, pleasantly surprised. Seems to be the theme of this team so far. But what did you guys think about the Clippers game the other night? Josh, I know you had some good thoughts on that and took some notes during the game. So what did you think about the PG-led Clippers?
Man, guys, when I say it was really nice to see PG back on the court, it was really nice to see PG back on the court. I mean, I'm glad that he's better. Obviously, I can speak for all of us by saying I wish he was on our team, but it was still really cool to see the authentic PG doing authentic PG things. But to kind of allude to what I was saying before, the Thunder, their defense was phenomenal. Like, it was everything you would expect, like, the Thunder to have, posting a top 10 defense in the NBA at the moment. But they were very competitive. I saw a lot of good things from multiple people on the team. Nerlens Noel, he's time and time again.
He's one of those guys that I think is creating a lot of value for himself. I wish he gets more minutes. There's nights that Billy doesn't seem to play him, but that length that he brings, that athleticism, there's not a lot of backup centers sending shots into the stands these days. The backup centers are kind of these like specialists. They're either like a rebounding specialist or a random 3-point big man specialist. But there's not a lot of Nerlens Noel out there, guys. And again, I think he's a guy that could bring some value in some trades. But selfishly, I don't want him going anywhere. I want him here on the roster.
Yeah, I love seeing him in a Thunder jersey.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I'd love to see him. One thing, though, the Thunder did have trouble dealing with was Montrezl Harrell. I mean, dude went 28, 12, and 5. He was just a force. It was just kind of hard to watch, really. But, you know, they still had fight in them all the way down to the end. One thing that I did appreciate was Billy Donovan kind of acknowledging the fact that he took Terrence Ferguson out.
I liked that.
What'd you guys think of that?
I liked that, I mean, watching the end of the game there, I kind of questioned the move. And to me, in my recent memory, that's the first time I can remember like Billy coming out and saying, man, I kind of screwed that one up there. I wish I had done that one differently. And maybe he said it before, but that's just one that I can remember. I don't remember that happening a lot. And again, it kind of speaks on the new culture, this new team. Even the coaches are saying, hey, I screwed that one up, and they're not afraid of the backlash. And I think that's the right thing to do, because I think you put T-Ferg on Paul George, because I promise you, Terrence Ferguson's growth as a defender is responsible for Paul George. I promise you, Paul George, in being a Thunder teammate of Terrence's for his first 2 seasons, really helped him grow.
No
and I'm
doubt.
sure Terrence would have loved the opportunity to go shut him down, because guess what? That Paul George, you said it was good to see him again, and he looked like the same guy. It just, when I saw that shot go in, it made me excited for a second, but then I quickly remembered he was on the other team, so it didn't feel as good, but it looked the same.
Yeah, that was definitely vintage PG. But what do you guys think about the trade? The trade between the Clippers and the Thunder.
Where we're at now, I mean, I've made peace with it. I was never been more shocked about news in my life. I mean, the KD news was shocking, but you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
It was just a Friday night. I'm at the house, hanging out. It's 1 a.m. I get a buzz on my phone, and I thought I was sleepwalking. The Thunder trade Paul George. What? Why? It was just out of nowhere. So, having made peace with that, I like the trade now. Paul George said it himself. He's like, man, look, they ended up pretty well. Sam Presti knows what he's doing. He got a future star, Danilo Gallinari. He got 2 great players, 2 starters, and about 800 draft picks, I think is what Paul George said. And he's not wrong. That one player turned into so many assets that you can't complain. And the fact is too that Paul George wasn't the only thing that we traded. We also traded them Kawhi Leonard, and we didn't have Kawhi Leonard on our payroll or on our roster.
Exactly.
That move was for Kawhi and PG, which is why we were able to pull off, I don't want to use the word heist, because they got Paul George, and they got an NBA championship out of it. I'm speaking way too early ahead here, but that's the move you make. That's why you do it. That's the goal. So I can't use the word heist, but 2 starters, one of those starters being your future of your franchise, and the other one probably turns into some futures of your franchise, and he's a great piece right now, and he's showing why I think we're gonna pull a heist on somebody else whenever we trade him away, because somebody's gonna overpay for him based on how he's playing right now. So, again, I think the Thunder win that trade in the long run. But Josh, the Clippers probably win it if we're talking about this year. Or
think,
do they?
I think that they have to win a championship
Yes.
with like
You're
Kawhi
right.
and PG. Just however long they end up staying there, whatever it ends up looking like. If they win a championship, then I'm going to say that they might have won that trade. But who's to say that the Thunder may not win a championship with those picks that they get? So I think, looking back at it, though, it definitely was a way for Oklahoma City to go through, I mean, what? I guess we're in the rebuild, and it could get really, really bad moving forward. But if this is what it looks like for the most part, I'm okay with this. I mean, it's interesting and fun to just talk about this roster and to watch these guys play out there, and a lot of these young guys who I mean are going to be here for a while. I mean, I'm thinking about the Baisley's types, and you got SGA out there. Those guys are going to be on this roster for the long haul, and I'm just excited to see what it all turns into when you get the next 500 draft picks or whatever it is on this roster as well. But for the moment, I think in order to say that the Clippers win, though, you got to win a championship. When you go all in, if you don't pull a championship back out, then you've paid too much.
You're right, and then we look like we've won this trade even more.
Exactly.
If the Clippers don't ever win an NBA championship while Paul George and Kawhi are on their roster, then I think the heist is probably the right word
Yes.
to use. So, and speaking of the Thunder, we better touch on our VIBELAND Sports fan poll question of the week from last week. The question was, winning aside, as a fan of the Oklahoma City Thunder, do you enjoy watching this team more than past years? 62% of our fans said yes, with 38% saying no. Guys, I think that's about right on par. I think a lot of people are jumping on the fact that this is a fun team to watch, but there are still some people missing the nostalgia, missing the competitiveness, and these getting frustrated at these losses instead of looking at the bright side and the future and the potential of this team.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt that this team's still obviously pretty flawed in a lot of ways. We can mention they haven't got a road win yet. They're very close, but they just don't have quite enough to climb the hill. But honestly, that's okay right now. I mean, we're trying to turn some of these draft picks that we are going to have into higher draft picks, and one way that we can do that, at least with our own picks, is to not win very many games. And if we can find a way to be extremely fun to watch and not win games, that's a sweet spot right now for this team.
Absolutely. Yeah, keeping the fan base happy, though.
Yes.
Because that if we keep losing, I think that percentage changes. Maybe we ask this question again here at maybe February. We'll see where the fans are at, and after the trade deadline too.
Yeah, after the All-Star break, trade deadline.
We'll see where we're at here. But that leads me into the next week's poll question. So we are wondering from the fans, having seen what we've seen, and with also the ability to slightly look into the future, does OU make the college football playoff? Yes or no? I think we've discussed it a little bit today. Yeah. There's avenues for this to happen, but I think you have to take into consideration what you've seen so far, how the committees place teams in the Big 12, how they've slightly disrespected Baylor. There are two teams in the top four right now that have to play each other. Do they play each other, and let's say LSU loses to Georgia on a close game? Does LSU just slide down but remain in the playoff while Georgia slides up, just rotating positions? I guess we'll see. So I want to see what the fans think about that.
Yeah, I'd say it's a sticky path. There's a lot of things that need to happen. It's a very narrow path for the Sooners right now, but the only thing that they can do is just win out and look as good as they possibly can while doing it. So
win out and win big.
Yes, and if they're able to do that and come back and beat Baylor again and beat them big, then maybe it's enough of an exclamation point if some things shake around that they may find themselves slipping in there in the top four.
Guys, I think that pretty much wraps it up for our topics today that we all wanted to get into. So, It was a great week of sports. Looking forward to another one. Looking forward to getting in here and looking over and talking about the Cowboys-Patriots game this weekend. I'm fired up for that. College football is sadly coming to a close, but, man, we have got the best holiday in the world coming up, Thanksgiving. So that's something to look forward to. So for Casady, for Josh, I'm Kelby, and also for Todd Miller, this has been another episode of VIBELAND Sports, a presentation of VIBELAND Media.